In the previous video I demonstrated how to prepare containers for planting, and now it's time to actually plant those containers up. So what we have first of all is a hanging basket. So that's the traditional wire basket. It's lined with moss. It's starting to get a little bit dry now. And then within that basket is a little bit of plastic with some drainage holes put in to keep the compost in the basket for one thing, and also kind of moist as well. The compost we're using is just an ordinary multi-purpose compost, and just to enrich it a little bit and to make sure that the plants will get lots of nutrients throughout the season, you can add some slow release fertilizer. They're little granules filled with fertilizer, and they break down slowly and feed the plants throughout the summer. So for a hanging basket like that, you need about 25 grams, which is about a small handful. Do a little bit more, there's probably more compost in there than we need. And we'll also add a little bit of water retaining gel, which will swell up, hold on to water, and then slowly release it again, which reduces the amount of watering you will have to do, because especially with hanging baskets, they dry out really quickly, and in a hot summer you might end up having to water them twice a day. So this cuts down on that watering a little bit. And just mix it through. The containers will still require some extra feeding, so I would feed them every week or every second week with the liquid fertilizer as well. It'll just make sure that you have continuous flowers and the plants stay healthy. Then start filling that. So maybe about halfway up. What you can do, if you wanted a very full basket, you could actually cut holes into the plastic as well and feed some plants through at the sides, but you would need quite a lot of plants to make it a very full look, otherwise it'll look bitty. I prefer to plant up the center and then have a few trailing plants going over the side, but that's completely up to you which way you'd like to do it. The plants we're using as our center main plant, we're using a small fuchsia. This is a bedding type fuchsia, so they're not hardy during the winter. I bought that excuse me, as a very small plant. It's a trailing fuchsia as well. It's called Pink Galore. It was a lot smaller when I first bought it, and I potted it on into a bigger pot, and it's now just ready to go in here. It's just about starting to root through. Just to check on quality of plants as well. It's a good healthy looking plant. There's a little bit of damage here, that's probably from a bit too much direct sunlight. The plants, you'd want to plant them so that they're just below the surface of the edge of the container, because if you fill the container right up with compost right up to the top, every time you water, the compost is going to spill out and it's going to be very messy. As a filling plant, I'm going to use Begonia. Now they're much smaller. They came as what they call kindergarten plants, so there was a whole tray of begonias, tiny little plants like this, and again I just potted them on. It's cheaper to buy the plants that way, a bit more work, but you save a little bit of money doing that. Now because they're smaller, if I plant them the same depth as the fuchsia, they would sit much lower, so I'm actually going to fill around the fuchsia with a little bit more compost to bring up the begonias. They are called Devil's Delight mixed, so they will have different colours, different types of pink and white. So they've not quite rooted through yet, so I have to be kind of careful squeezing them out of the container. You can't see the roots going right to the bottom yet, but that's fine. They're good and ready to be planted. In any container, you can really pack in the plants as well, because you have a very regular feeding regime. The plants will fill out the container and will not suffer. They get plenty of water and feed. Might use one from here, this one doesn't look the best. In terms of quality of the plants, what happened with these, they set in full for a day or two. I had left them in full sunlight and in the potting shed, and that was quite intense. They didn't like that. So some of them have slightly brown leaves, but they will recover and they will be fine. The reason for my choice of plants is that this hanging basket is going to go onto a north facing wall. So there will be partial shade. It gets a bit of sun in the morning and that's it. So I need plants that will take a little bit of shade. And the Begonia, the Fuchsia and this Lobelia, they will all be fine in that kind of situation. Incidentally, the Lobelia, somehow from previous plants that I had, they made its way into my tunnel. And they grew over winter in the tunnel. They're a half-hardy perennial, mostly used as an annual, but they can survive a winter. So I potted them up, and they're just perfect now for the hanging basket. This one's rooted through quite well. You can see the length of these now. They will trail nicely over the edge. That's probably enough. What you need to do now is you need to make sure that you put enough compost in without overfilling it. Put enough compost to go all around the plants, that there is good soil contact between the roots and the plants. So you need to individually go around each plant with that compost and just gently firm it in, not too hard damage the plants either. That sometimes takes a little while. But all these plants, they will thrive in that kind of shade. And while it looks a little bit sparse at the moment, they will all grow much bigger over time. Now none of these plants have been hardened off, which means they've been in the tunnel and the potting shed for a while, so they're not quite ready to go outside, and I'm not going to harden them off just yet. We're now at the beginning of May, and right through the month of May there's still a chance that we could get frost and the plants might well be damaged. So I'm going to keep them somewhere in semi-shade indoors, and in another 2 or 3 weeks time, when they're filled out a little bit more, start hardening the whole container off over a period of about a week. They get a little bit longer every day outside, and then they're ready to go into their final position by the front door. So all that remains to be done is a good watering, and you can see there's still a little bit of the liner showing, so you can use a scissors and just cut those bits off where they're showing, or push them in a little bit so it looks better. But because it's up at a height, there's a good chance that you don't even see that little bit of plastic. So that's your hanging basket.